Hey guys, this is my spoiler talk for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, so if you haven't seen the movie, do not watch this yet. Watch it after you've seen the movie. There's going to be heavy spoilers. So let's get started. At the beginning of the movie, Spider-Man first fights the guy who's going to become the Rhino. He's not the Rhino yet, so when I saw this, I was like, well, where's the Rhino? I thought he was going to be Rhino. And he's Rhino about 2 hours and 15 minutes later. Now, one of my favorite parts of the movie was when Electro was at Times Square, and he first gets his powers, and he doesn't know how to control them, and all the cops are getting nervous. They have their guns pointed. You could see they're wanting to shoot him, and he's just scared out of his mind, Electro. He doesn't know what's going on. And at first, Spider-Man tries to help him, but then Electro's on the big screen. He's on all the TVs, and he's like, oh, that's cool, because he's on the big screen. He's a somebody now. He just wanted people to see him. But then the cameras go to Spider-Man, and Electro gets so jealous, he freaks out, and he starts hating Spider-Man and wants to kill him. And oh, I love that scene. It was one of the best fights in the movie. But I also noticed every Spider-Man villain we've had in the movie has had voices in their head. Because in this movie, there's voices in Electro's head that are talking shit to him, like saying you're a loser and stuff, which makes him get angry. And that makes me wonder, do they always have to have voices in their head? For example, Green Goblin, he had voices in his head. Dr. Octopus, the arms, they talk to him. The Lizard had voices in his head. Electro has voices in his head. All of Spider-Man's villains just need some medication, pop some pills, and the voices will go away. Spider-Man will be like, well, I didn't need to fight them. All they needed was some medication. Now, there are a lot of Easter eggs in this movie. Like, for example, Max calls this one guy Smythe, and I'm like, holy shit, that's Alistair Smythe. And if you don't know who that is, he becomes a supervillain later. And Harry Osborn has this girl who works for him named Felicia, and in the comics, Felicia is the Black Cat. So I'm like, that is awesome. I can't wait to see those two characters later on in the series. Which I'm excited for, because maybe there's other characters that are going to bring in, like Ben Reilly. If you don't know who Ben Reilly is the guy who becomes Spider-Man after Peter Parker, because obviously in the comics Peter Parker couldn't be Spider-Man forever, so Ben Reilly took his place, which I don't know. I'm just theorizing for future movies. Oh, and there's one scene that was in the trailer that was not in the movie that I was disappointed of. You know that scene when Harry and Peter are talking and they're all like, Oscorp had you under surveillance. Why? Isn't that the question of the day? Yeah, that scene is just cut, not in the movie, which I was disappointed because I wanted to see that movie. My favorite Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy scene in this movie was probably when they're just friends because they broke up, and Peter's like, oh, stop doing that. That thing with your nose, it's too much. I can't handle it. That was probably my favorite scene. I thought it was cute, and I was like, you know what? You two are a cute couple. Why don't you just date? You don't have to do this break up, get back together 50, 100 times bullshit. Just date. You guys are a cute couple. And in this movie, Harry Osborn becomes the Green Goblin. And a lot of people are like, that's not right. Norman Osborn is the Green Goblin. Well, in some comics, Harry Osborn becomes the Green Goblin. And the reason they did that is because at the beginning of this movie, you only see 3 minutes of him, Norman Osborn. He dies, so he's not in the series anymore, which I am disappointed of, because Norman Osborn is one of my favorite characters in the Spider-Man universe, and now he's gone. He's dead. You can't bring him back, so they can't do any more story with him. You're not going to see him in any more movies, and I'm just disappointed, but whatever, I'm not the director. So anyways, the final fight with the Green Goblin, yeah, that's the only fight the Green Goblin is in. That's the only scene the Green Goblin is in, is the final fight, which lasted like 10, not even 10 minutes, 5 minutes. It lasted 5 minutes or so. And it was disappointing. The fight was cool. Nothing about the fight was bad. The fight was awesome. The disappointing thing was, that's the only scene the Green Goblin is in, and it's only 5 minutes long. And long story short, Gwen Stacy, yeah, she dies. Now, I'm going to make another comparison here with the Green Goblin with Venom from Spider-Man 3. You know when you watched the trailers for Spider-Man 3 back when you were a kid, and the first trailer you were like, oh, there's rumors about Venom being in the movie, and then the second trailer you were like, I think I saw Venom in that trailer. And then at the final trailer, you're like, oh my god, Venom's going to be in the movie. And then you went and saw Spider-Man 3, and you're like, he's only in it for the final fight. That's a waste of Venom. Why would you waste such a villain like that? That's exactly what they did with Green Goblin in this movie. In the first trailer, you were like, oh, Green Goblin's going to be in the movie. In the second trailer, you're like, you saw more scenes of Green Goblin, and then by the final trailer, you're like, Green Goblin is going to be the main villain. I don't know why Electro is, but no. Green Goblin in this movie was exactly like Venom in Spider-Man 3. It sucked. And I'm not saying The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is like Spider-Man 3. No. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is way better than Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 was dog shit. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I said it was 4 out of 5. It was really good. I know I talk a lot of shit about it, but that's just what I do. Now, I'm going to talk about Gwen's death. Gwen is falling down to the floor, and Spider-Man goes to save her and spins a web. The web was just a billionth of a second too late. It caught Gwen on the chest, and the impact of the web grabbing her from the height, it snapped her neck all the way back, and she was this far from the concrete, and her head smacked on the concrete, and you're just like, oh, I think she's dead. And Peter gets down there, and he's like, Gwen, and he starts crying, and that shows how much of an amazing actor Andrew Garfield is. That one scene, and that's probably my favorite scene in the whole film, because the Green Goblin fight and then Gwen dying, I was like, that was awesome. And you just feel so bad for Peter Parker. It sucked. Like, I was about to cry when I saw it the first time. I was like, wow, that's rough. It's so emotional and sad. And now the end of this movie I did not like, because they put Rhino in it for 2 minutes, and they did not need to do that. Like, I know why they did it, because they want to set up for the Sinister Six, but they didn't need to do it. They could have waited till the third movie. And, oh, and the guy from the first movie in The Amazing Spider-Man 1, when the Lizard was in jail, and that creepy guy came with the hat, and he's all covered in black, and he's all like, did you tell the boy about his father? He's in this movie, and you finally figure out who it is. He's Mr. Fierce, a.k.a. The Gentleman. And if you don't know who that is, he's a guy who works for the Chameleon, who brings together the Sinister Six. I know that because I'm probably one of the biggest Spider-Man fans out there, so I know all about this stuff. And the reason I talked so badly about this movie is because they're just things I didn't like. For example, the Green Goblin at the end. First of all, Green Goblin, in my opinion, is Spider-Man's archenemy. I know a lot of people will say Venom is, because Venom is his exact opposite, but Green Goblin has done the most damage to him in the comic books. That's why I say Green Goblin is his archenemy. So, when you bring his archenemy into a movie, and only put him in for 5 minutes, I'm gonna be pretty pissed. That's like having the Dark Knight. You know how in the Dark Knight, the Joker was the main villain? And then they were like, okay, we're gonna put Two-Face at the end because people like Two-Face. That's fine, because the Joker is Batman's main villain. Have him for most of the movie. I felt like they did the opposite of that with Spider-Man. They put the main villain at the end and only the minor villains halfway through. Well, that's my spoiler talk for Spider-Man 2, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.